Today I want to make you something a little bit different than you've seen before. Here's a roasting chicken. What we're going to end up making is Martha Washington's mother's chicken pie, but with a few modifications because when I first made it to the exact 1700 recipe, it wasn't very good. There's things in it we do not eat anymore. This is as close to the original recipe as I can find. It's from an 1892 cookbook. This is the cover, and this is how the recipe was originally printed from the original handwritten copy that Martha Washington had. And this is the 1940 edition, and I have the 2004 reprint. So here's the cover of the cookbook, and here is the 1940 edition, and I'm going to show you in the next few minutes what I did to modify it even further for our tastes. Okay, we got the bird out of the sack, and we're going to pull some stuff out of the center here that we just don't use for the chicken pie. I guess those are giblets. Those will go in the scrap bag, although some people might like them. They might want to do something with them. Got a whole bunch of chicken fat. Well, we're not dealing with that either. And the cavity looks pretty clear, so we just got to give it a wash. And we'll go on to the next step. So we've got the bird all cleaned out. We're going to leave the neck bone, or tail, what is that? Tailbone, neck bone? Neck bone. And we're going to let that drain. Now we're going to go ahead and get the pot ready, because what you have to do is you have to boil the chicken. This is a 12-quart stainless steel Lindy pot. It's a surgical stainless steel pot. You'll be able to see an inset of that as to what it is. It's a 9-element. That's the bottom right here. It's stainless aluminum, so that it does not burn anything. This is the same pot that I used for my pulled pork for Christmas. Okay, so we've got our water in the Lindy pot. We're going to add some sacrificial spices, a couple pieces of celery, sweet onion, and the secret ingredient, whole black peppercorns. Get a good handful. Just like that. Now the deal about the whole peppercorns is we do not want the pepper flavor. We want the oils to come out of the peppercorn and go into the water, which will then go into the chicken, and that will flavor the chicken along with the celery and the sweet onions. It's amazing that it just leaches all the oil out, and you don't taste any pepper in there. You taste the oil of pepper. And unless you've done it, I can't explain to you exactly what it tastes like. Alrighty, looks like we're boiling. Oh yes. So, we're now going to take the chicken and plop it. There. Consider it plopped. That'll come back up to a boil, and we may turn the heat down a little bit. And we'll come back in 45 minutes. Okay, now that the chicken is being boiled, we have to look at the crust. The original recipe, you did not pre-bake the bottom crust. And first or second time I did it, it never cooked because of the various things that they put in there. So What I've got here is a Pyrex, what are you, an 805B. It's an antique oblong, it's not really a pie plate, but we found that the pie plates, we don't make this very often, so when you do make it, everybody loves it, and most of the pie is gone in a heartbeat. So I decided I'm going to take this thing, which is a good deal bigger, and we're going to try making almost like a casserole. So we've got rolled pie crust here. This is from Tops. That's a local supermarket. No, I do not make pie crust. Comments below. You got to know your limitations. Pie crust is mine. And so when that gets a little bit cooler, or warmer, I mean, we're going to try to get it out in the bottom, and then we're going to bake the bottom crust at about 350 until it gets brown, so that we'll know that when we put all the other stuff in, it will be cooked. So we rolled out the first crust. And of course, we knew that it wasn't going to fit just right. So I think we're going to have to take this middle to make it work. And yes, it would have been easier to just do a regular pie or maybe two pies. But I wanted to try this, and I bought this special Pyrex casserole dish, and it's an experiment. But in reality, the pie's going to taste the same, whether I butcher the way the crust looks or not. So what we decided to do was lay the second piece right over the first, take a knife and cut across, and then we should be able to, well, not quite. Work in progress, we'll get it. We'll be able to kind of knead it together, so we'll have a full crust. Up here with a little bit of water and some finger action, and there we go. It's pretty much covered. And again, it's the bottom. Nobody's going to see it. And no matter how bad a job I do, it's still going to taste just fine. So now it's got to go in the oven and be cooked at 350 until it gets brown. This was an experiment. Maybe we should have put all the pie crusts together and wadded them up and then rolled them back out, because you can see there's a little separation there, but in the end, it's probably, I'll guarantee it's not going to affect the taste of the pie. It may look a little funny. And this was an experiment using this oval dish as opposed to a regular pie plate, because the biggest pie plate I got is 10, and this is bigger than that and deeper, and we wanted deeper. Okay, here's what we have after about 45-50 minutes. You can see the peppercorns. They float all over the place. The onions have given their flavor. And when you're stripping this thing down, getting the meat off, you got to make sure no peppercorns. So, well, I'm in a backbone. Knife seems to go straight through. Generally, after 45-50 minutes, it's cooked. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it out of the water and continue to boil it down, because we want to save that chicken stock, because some of it is going to go in the chicken pie. Remember when I said you have to make sure you get the peppercorns out? They tend to migrate down inside the body. And you don't want to crunch down on one of those things in the pie. They just love to work their way inside, but then they release their oils into the chicken, and that will, what we've done so far, this is the best tasting boiled chicken you've ever had. It has great flavor because of the celery, the onion, and of course the oils of the peppercorn. Okay, here's what's left of the bird. And there's the meat. And while we were waiting for that to cool down so that we could debone it, we've been continuing to boil down the chicken stock, because not only is it going to be used in the future, but we're going to need a little bit of it for the chicken pie, which I'll show very shortly. Here's where we move away from the original Martha Washington's recipe. They used hard-boiled eggs and the chicken stock. They would pour the hot chicken stock into the pie with the hard-boiled eggs. The yolk of the hard-boiled egg would dissolve, and it looked like cat puke. Tasted it too. So anyway, what I came up with after the fourth try on this was to use Campbell's Cooking Cream of Mushroom Soup and Cranberry American Marsala wine. So you take the soup, dump it into the saucepan, take the empty can, fill it halfway with the Marsala wine, put that in there. We're boiling the chicken stock down. So what we're going to do is take a half a can of that and put it in the saucepan, and then just heat it up enough to get it mixed good, and that will be the binder for the ingredients in the chicken pie, which are the chicken, naturally, and more celery and some more onion. So we've got the soup in the saucepan here. We've got a half a can of the chicken stock and a half a can of the Cranberry Marsala wine. And then the only thing left to do is to just put a little bit of lemon juice in right at the end. You don't want to cook the lemon juice. Just want to put a little bit in. So we're going to warm that soup up just a little bit. And give that a stir. And we're real close to assembling this pie. Okay, we've done a little prep work. We've got some onion, fresh celery, 3 slices of buttered bread, and all of this will go in with the chicken and the mushroom soup mix. And the bread will soak up the liquid of the soup. It'll congeal it. Of course, when it cooks too, it'll cook more and congeal. So let's take some chicken. Whatever chicken is left over, if there is any, makes good pulled chicken, just like pulled pork. Be generous with the chicken. That's the whole idea. And we got a little bit left over. Then get your onion. Sprinkle that all over. And you got your celery. There we go. Now we just got to take the 3 slices of bread and tear it up and put it all over the chicken. Now what we're using for bread, because we're in the middle of the pandemic, we have a hard time getting the bread that we would normally buy. So I stopped down to the Amish and we buy this wheat bread from them. $2 a loaf. Really nice stuff. So I'm going to do the other 2 here. And we'll be back in a minute. All the bread's done. And here's our soup mix. And we're just going to pour that on. Now, you could, if you wanted more mushrooms, you could add fresh mushrooms or freeze-dried. but I'm not trying to make a chicken mushroom pie. There we go. So that's ready now for the top crust. We hope that's going to go a little better than the bottom crust. Might as well do this live, see how bad off it's going to be. Might not be as bad as I think it's going to be. No. That looks pretty good, actually. I don't think the two crusts are ever going to go together because of, in places it's sunk. Nope. Not going to be a thing of beauty. But as I said earlier, it doesn't matter. It will taste the same. One final thing I forgot to do. Got to put some holes in it. Looks a little like a apple pie, doesn't it? So what we're going to do with that, we're going to put it in a 350 degree oven, and we're going to cook it until the top gets brown, because everything else inside is either cooked or will cook real quickly, like the onions and the celery. They will cook up real quick because I cut them small. And the soup will thicken. It'll go into the bread and it will thicken up. And I think it'll work out okay. Bake it until the top crust is brown. If you have a convection, definitely set it for convection bake. But this particular oven does not have it, so middle rack, 350, and it'll be done when it's done. Okay, there it is. You can see it is bubbling, and it looks pretty good, and I think we're going to pull it. There it is. It's out and cooling. And in probably half an hour or so, we'll cut into it. I have high hopes for it. There you go, guys. All that work. We worked most of the afternoon. There is Martha Washington's chicken pie. There's the first piece, guys. Shame you don't have smell-o-vision.